giving this shot, like to start medical school in Rome, Italy, in the English program. How was this process of leaving Brazil and going to Italy for you?
So I think the first thing that has to be said is that I loved my life in Brazil, the university I was doing. I loved the university itself. And I started looking into exchange programs within the Italian universities.
Hello you guys, welcome to this channel. My name is Matt, I'm a medical student here in Rome, Italy. I have this joy to share with you my journey here as a medical student, as a father, as a husband, as also a worker, humanitarian worker. I have been working for the past 10 years with international development, and I want to share with you my story. So today I have a very special guest on my channel, and I'm very excited about talking to this friend of mine. He graduated in 2021 in medicine and surgery from the University of Rome, La Sapienza. He completed his first year of the foundation program in the UK. He is from Brazil, got accepted in one of the most competitive public medical schools in Brazil, and then decided to leave everything behind and move to Italy to study medicine in English. Besides being a doctor that graduated with honors, he's also a great friend that I had the privilege to meet in Rome during my first year of medical school when he was almost finishing medical school. So today I want to welcome to our channel Dr. Guilherme.
Hi Matt, the pleasure is mine to be here. It's always a pleasure talking to you, and maybe sharing a bit of my journey. Hopefully it's a similar journey to many people, or at least the idea is the same behind what we're doing. So I think there's quite a few things to talk about.
Well, let's start with this very hot topic that is actually getting accepted to one of the most competitive universities in Brazil, high quality, the State University of São Paulo, Brazil. And then deciding after almost 2 years of medical school there, if I'm not mistaken, to leave that and then start all over and giving this shot, like to start medical school in Rome, Italy, in the English program. How was this process of leaving Brazil and going to Italy for you?
So I think the first thing that has to be said is that I loved my life in Brazil, the university I was doing. I loved the university itself. I loved my friends there. I was doing a lot of things that I liked. I was involved in a lot of things in the university itself, such as let's say the Student Sports Association, which in Brazil is one of the main institutions that a student can be a part of. So I was really involved in my uni in Brazil. So it was very difficult actually for me to then leave and go. I had always been interested in going abroad and studying abroad and maybe pursuing something abroad. At that point in time, I didn't have any dreams to then leave my university and go somewhere else. It was hard work to get in, I have to say that, but it was definitely worth it. The public schools in Brazil tend to have a good reputation, especially for the more traditional professions, so medicine being one of them. Yes, I was living the classic student life, living with 3 other roommates, which I really liked. It was a very intense 2 years before I finished the second one. And I started looking into exchange programs within the Italian universities. But actually, it turns out that the IMatt, which is something you know very well, and this whole thing about the English medical courses in Italy, they were starting to become more well-known and was starting to become a more popular thing. So I found out about this whole thing. I found out about Sapienza and its English course, and I decided to apply instead of applying for, let's say, an internship or some exchange period. So in September, after having taken the exam, I moved to Italy with my family, and then after a few weeks, learned I had got it in, and was very happy with the prospect of then starting this new adventure. But then it was not something definitive for me. I was still wondering if I wanted to maybe continue in Brazil after doing this period abroad, or if I wanted to stay in Italy. was it worth it to go back, or was it worth it to then stay in Europe?
That's a very interesting point, because I had this expectation to actually leave when I moved to Italy, this Brazilian medical school lifestyle.
Yeah.
And then I think you had both. So you had the both experiences, and I just had observed from other friends actually going to medical school and just having lots of like all these sports association, all these competitions they have, and all these parties from the first and second year, and all these t-shirts. That this t-shirt, for example, I bought in Brazil and I didn't find any in Italy. Like tell us, what are the main differences between studying, being a medical student in Brazil? I think you already mentioned some of that, but then you decided to stay and you graduated from La Sapienza, as we said. What are the main difference between both realities, both worlds in medical school?
Yeah, no, exactly what you said about this idea of medical school in Brazil. It's something almost folkloric, isn't it? And I think that stems from the fact that there's such a huge identification of the students with the med school that they go to. So basically, you have a lot of merchandise, like I'm gonna say merchandising, but basically you have clothes with like the name of the university just written all over it. You have sports competitions. You have all sorts of activities that just reinforce this idea of you belonging between the medical students as being a part of Sapienza, but even other courses. Sapienza is a huge university, and several Italian universities are also very big. And I didn't see this kind of identity, like you being a part of something that's bigger than you. So the first thing I noticed, and I think this was a bit exaggerated by my point of view of coming from a very specific scenario in Brazil, was that people were a bit more, they were focused on studying. They were focused on doing what they signed up to do, which was to study, in this case, medicine. And clearly you had the classroom with your friends, and you had maybe events like going out and things like that, but it wasn't something institutional. It wasn't institutionalized as the medical course is throwing a party that day, or the second year is throwing a party that day, or the basketball team of the medical team. So there was not this side of things. And then I had to understand how different it is in Italy. Basically, a way to put it is that it's almost as if it's like the high school life, so your friends, everything, but at university. So it was interesting because have you ever seen that diagram that has three domains, like social life, sleep, and academic success, and you can only choose two as a student, especially as a medical student? In Brazil, you had it was very, very true. So usually people would be very sleep deprived, but they would not give up on their social events, and then they would have to study because you just have to study medical school, don't you? In Italy, things were more balanced. What happens then is that Brazil kind of exaggerates the social side of things, which is very fun, but also you need to learn how to balance that with your work life. And in Italy, things are a bit more tuned down. You learn to enjoy other things, and I think you can be more disciplined in there. So this is one of the things I learned as a consequence of this change. I learned to be more disciplined in my work and study life, and I learned to kind of marry my interests of seeing friends and doing extra activities to this discipline. I think this is how I would put it. So in one country you have big highs and lows, in the other one you have a more stable life. Yeah.
But then during this very intense 6 years of medical school in Italy, you had time to actually make friends to have a social life, to enjoy the city, and to learn Italian. How was this entire combo for you since you ended up staying in Italy and graduating from Italy?
No, absolutely. And it's not only a matter of I had time to, but I think it's essential to do those things because those are part of the university life. The medical diploma is not a thing on and of itself. The medical diploma is one thing, which is amazing to achieve, but it's important that you live those 6 years of your life getting the most out of your studies, but also getting the most out of the social side of things, because we're social beings, we're human beings. It makes sense to make friends and know people, and professionally it's also important to do that, because then this is a way you can also be more informed about career opportunities. This is the way you get informed about different specialties. So to me, and learning Italian as well, I think is an essential part of living that culture to the max. Playing sports to me, it's always been a part of my life, and it was so important also in strengthening these bonds with my friends, because these extracurricular activities, those are the things that in which you can really get to know people, you can have fun together, you can have a laugh, and then even studying together, of course. Like during the last years, we had little time to go out, so often we'd be just studying together and kind of revising and asking each other questions. And that makes life easier and lighter in med school. So it's so important that we understand that this is part of medical school. It's not a plus, it's part of it. It's integral to the package, Yeah.
That's so true. That's so true. I keep saying to my friends that it's important for us to cultivate this friendship, because usually you will make friends for life from this period. 6 years together. So you're supposed to at least have some people that you are more acquainted with, that you became friends with, and then you care for life. But you always can keep in touch with those people that actually made difference in your life, right? Did you have a time during medical school in Italy that you did not enjoy as a medical student? Tell us about the hardships and the challenges that actually made you unmotivated, because I feel like in the first 2 years that I just completed, it was really tough. I guess I had more difficulty adapting the first semester. I did not like at all. And then I just kept on pushing, and that's my hashtag for everything that I do. But tell us about your challenges and hardship, if you have any moment during your 6 years of studying that you did not enjoy.
To me, I think up until year 3, I was struggling to find motivation, not to study itself, because I was still studying for my exams. Because it was very theoretical, we tended to not have a lot of clinical insight in the first 3 years. So it was difficult to get hold of the big picture and understand that those are only the building blocks so that you can succeed later on. Finding the motivation to be applied and diligent in those 3 years to me was difficult. So it was very important to me to have other activities that kind of kept me going and kind of made me feel satisfied in some way, because medical school was not keeping me satisfied. And I think obviously things can always improve, and the tendency is for the teaching methods also to improve over time. So universities, they're not supposed to be static institutions. However, on a personal level, I think that helps you to put things into perspective. Even the moments of hardship, once you get through them, you are stronger by the time you get away from it. And I think that was definitely the case for me. So, yeah.
And so we're going to talk about the UK Foundation program in the next block of this interview. But I want just to ask this major question that everybody has. So you are in the foundation program. And what is a foundation program, first of all, and which specialization did you have in mind when you graduated a year ago from the University of Rome, La Sapienza?
Yeah, so right now I'm in my second year of the foundation program in the UK. Basically what it is each country has their own system, right? which varies to an extent. So in the UK, after you complete your years of med school, you then do 2 years as a foundation doctor. So the first year being the year in which you have to practice under supervision. So you're under a provisional license given by the GMC, which is the institution that basically regulates medical practice in the UK. And then in the second year, you are an independent doctor, so you can practice independently, but you're still a foundation doctor. This means that basically you're still rotating. So during the foundation program, you have 4-month blocks in which you're doing a job in a certain specialty. To give you an example, my first year was 4 months in urology, so a surgical specialty, 4 months in geriatrics, then a medical specialty, and 4 months in psychiatry. Then this year, I'll have 4 months in A&E, or in the emergency department, 4 months in oncology, another medical specialty, and 4 months in intensive care. And then I ended up choosing cardiology to pursue as my thesis and as a career in general, because I was so interested in the physiology and the clinical sides of it. I thought it was a very interesting career. So I was very into cardiology